What's up, everyone? Your sensei's back. Finished the morning up $5,700. Best trade of the day, up $9,500. That was my best winner of the day. Wow, I needed it, finally. First big win in like a month. We're gonna break it down in today's midday market recap. All right, everyone. So we're going to do our midday market recap here, and today was a wild day. It was a very surprising day, both in the way it started and in the way it finished. This month has been just pretty wild in general. So here we are, finishing the day. My biggest winner today, $9,463.31. That right there is the biggest winner I've had in almost a month. So I'm very happy about that. But today started with another red trade. And so let me pull up my P&L here. So finishing the day up $5,714. Green is good. Givo got me for $3,300. So today's a day where I was actually red on 2 out of 3 names, but that third one, big winner, and that makes up for it. So, today's, like I say, a little bit of a choppy day. Very first trade out of the gates, Givo took a loss on it, but bounced right back with a big winner on XSPL. So finishing the day green, last trade, I closed up at $9.59. So 30 minutes of trading, $5,700. Life is good, and now it's time to enjoy the weather, get outside, and just relax a little bit. But before we do that, break down the trades. So this morning started the same as any other day. All right, so started by looking at the gap scanner. So let me move this over here for a second. All right, so that's the P&L. So here's our gap scanner. All right, so this is the tool that I use every single morning to find stocks to trade. So I'm going to do a historical scan on this for 9:15 this morning. I don't get up at 7 a.m. to start doing market research. I don't have to do lots of homework at night. I get up around, 8 o'clock, and then I'm sitting here in front of my computer by 9, pre-market analysis, 9 to 9:15, 9:30, and then I'm ready to trade. So really in 15, 20 minutes, you can find stocks to trade. This morning, this was what the gap scanner looked like. So we're searching the entire market, and we're looking for stocks gapping up more than 4%. So if a stock is going to open up more than 4% in one day, that's exceeding the standard deviation of a stock. Now, again, if you put your money into mutual funds and you put it there for an entire year, it would only grow by 8%. So for one individual security to move 4% in one day, it might not sound like a lot, but it's actually really substantial, to the point where out of every single stock in the entire market, this is the entire list of stocks gapping up more than 5%, more than 4%. And I'm actually just going to adjust this just because I always say 5%, and I'm just going to switch it right now. All right, this is a very simple scan that I run. It's not complex at all. So this, let's see, I'm just going to update this to 5 and 5. All right, so there'll be a few less stocks on the scanner, and that's fine with me. So there we go, just like that. This is our list of stocks to look at, all right? So we've narrowed down the list from 15,000 down to, looks like about 20. I'm going to focus on the top 10, so from maybe here up. All right, now the leading gapper this morning only has 100 shares of volume, so I'm just going to ignore that. All right, so that one's off the list. It's also only $1, so it's a little too cheap. All right, so that one's off the list. Next one down, Givo, G-E-V-O, price $5.24. Float, 1 million shares. All right, so that's how many shares are available to trade. Very low float. Gapping up 49% with 198,000 shares of volume. This I can tell just without even looking at the chart that it's something I'm going to want to look more closely at. All right, we'll come back to it in a second. Next one down, PTCT. It's a $50 stock. I don't trade stocks that expensive. It's off my list. OBSV. I don't usually trade stocks that are in this price range, but I'll take a quick peek at it just to see if maybe it's doing something really incredible. I look at it, I see that it is gapping up, but not a lot of pre-market volume, which is what I would have been looking at here at 9:15. So I'm just going to say I don't think it's going to be anything I would trade. Maybe come back to it, but probably not. So that one's off the list. CBPO, too expensive, $104. RCII, we pulled this one up, and we see that it's trading pretty much sideways. So that's kind of interesting. Why does that happen? Well, they accepted a $15 per share offer, which means they've been bought out. All right, so bought out, it's going to trade sideways at basically 15, so that one's off the list. All right, next one down, EGC. So just going down through the list here. Next one down, EGC, also a buyout, and that one's off the list. QTNT, this one we were watching. 26 million share float is a little on the higher side. It did pop up out of the gates, and we'll come back to this one. All right, so this one's a maybe. Next one down, VSTM, 50 million share float. Don't like it. That's off the list. All right, so just like that, we pretty much have narrowed down from potentially 10, 15,000 stocks to trade to 2. QTNT and GVO. All right, so let's start with GVO. GVO, this one gapping up, as you can see, 50%, nearly 50%. I was watching it, and I was looking at the pre-market high of 528. I looked at the news and saw that there was EPA approval, approves registration of isobutanol in 16% blends in gasoline. All right, so we've got a news out this morning at 9 a.m. Okay, so here we go. We've got a headline. So I see it moving up pre-market, and I'm thinking, all right, well, when the bell rings, I'm going to watch for this pre-market consolidation that we have right here to break. So the buy spot as a breakout would be at 528. I often buy early to anticipate these types of breakouts. And so when the bell rang, I had my order ready to go to buy at 525. The bell rings, and I jumped in at 520 because I saw a pretty good amount of volume coming in. So I was like, all right, this thing looks interesting. And you can see right now it just squeezed up 8% in the last 10 minutes, just right now. All right, we'll look at it in a second. So I'm watching the buy. I jump in there at 520, and sadly, it hits 524, and then it promptly drops all the way down to 485. This was a pretty nasty drop. I was really disappointed with it, and I ended up taking a loss on it. And now here you go. Look at it now. Now it's breaking over that VWAP and squeezing up, hitting 555. But the reality is there's no way I could have known this would happen. So when I got in it, I did the right thing. I was getting in for a breakout, and then it just swept down. I stopped out, took the loss. And so on that one, I was down $3,351. So a pretty good size loss, disappointing there. And at that point, I was like, well, you know, we're in a difficult market, and I just took a good size loss. I haven't been seeing $3,000 winners. So now I'm going to probably spend the rest of the week trying to dig myself out of that hole. And then we see this stock, XSPL, hit the scanners. So when XSPL hit the scanners, first at 8:55, I looked at it and I was like, okay, just with one scanner alert, I can see the volume is light, but I can see that it's up 13% on the day, which is certainly interesting. 964,000 share float is 964,000. That's very low. And the volume in the last 5 minutes is 3,959 times higher than average. So just like that, it's medium, massive volume, low float. Even though the relative volume is low, or the total volume is low, the relative volume is high. So I see it hit once, and I see someone in the chat room type, hey, this one has news. I see it hit twice, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times, and I'm like, okay, I'm pulling it up. So what I do is I type it in, XSPL. I type it in just like that. I see on Lightspeed, or sorry, I see on eSignal right here that there is news on it today. So I'm like, okay, there's a headline, interesting. And once I saw that and I could tell how quickly it was moving, I jumped in. This was an aggressive trade, no doubt about it. But when a stock squeezes up this quickly, in the past, that's meant good things. And you can see here, this is a recent IPO breakout, and the nearest resistance point was $12, the spot that I have circled right here. That's where this line intersects with today's candle, potentially. All right, so I jump in this one, and I'm in at 919, 945, and 976. It squeezes up to a high of $11.63. I mean, if I'd held the whole thing, that would have been a $15,000 trade. I sold into the move and booked a profit of $9,463. So just like that, my day turned around from being down 3K to being up 5K. That's a big turnaround. I mean, that really is, I don't usually get that type of turnaround. So, the thing with this one is that I had a little bit of FOMO because I had just taken a loss. And so when I did see something hit the scanner, I was willing to be a little bit more aggressive. Sometimes when you get hit and you get knocked down, you spring back up and you're like, okay, I'm ready to get back, and you're ready to swing because you just got knocked down. You're ready to get up and swing. As a beginner trader, you're going to just be flailing your arms because you don't know where to swing. You're just, do I go for this? Do I go for that? Do I go for that? Now, I'm a seasoned trader, but that FOMO can take you off your game a little bit. It can take you off your game, make you a little bit more aggressive than usual, a little more impulsive than usual. But when you've got years and years of experience, you're more likely to just sort of instinctually make a good decision because it's influenced by years and years of trading experience. So even though I gave into a little bit of FOMO by chasing it and not waiting for the pullback, I think this was the right one to be aggressive on for a couple of reasons. Number one, by the time that I was getting in, it was already up 25% on the day. So it was showing it was moving very quickly. It was on our scanner right here for massive volume. The float was very low, and it's a recent IPO breakout, which is a setup that was working really well last month on IMTE, BOXL, and several others. So, on this one, I was willing to be a little bit more aggressive, and I was looking at that $12 potential price target. Now, I only took 7,500 shares. I didn't take 15,000 the way I might have in May. I didn't go super, super heavy, but I did step up to the plate. And in this case, that worked out really well. So I'm in at an average of 945, and it squeezes up. I end up adding at 1050. It taps a high of 1103. It gets halted. It resumes. It dips down. We do a little dip buy setup there, and then squeezes up to a high of 1163. From there, it's been selling off. So this is one that gave us a prize opportunity, got redemption on it, did really well, and then GVO on the other hand did this kind of horrible sell-off out of the gates, and then here out of nowhere at 1030, squeezes up $1 per share. So we say stocks can be irrational longer than you can remain solvent. It just is to say that in this case, yeah, sure, I could have held this whole position here, and I guess I would have come out break even, but I would have had to hold through such a loss. It wouldn't have been smart. And even in this one, it got me for a much bigger loss than I wanted it to, but I tried to get out. I was hoping here on a 1 minute micro pullback, it would pop back up. This is what I was looking at. I held through here because I thought first 1 minute candle to make a new high, we would red to green and go right back up. And that was certainly possible, but when we broke the lows, I had to stop out on this candle right here. So that was the right thing to do based on my strategy, but definitely a disappointing loss. So today is kind of a wild day. I had one of my biggest losers of the month, and I also had one of my biggest winners. And it's really not uncommon for that to happen to me because the big loss can just come from bad luck. I mean, just being a little too aggressive on the wrong stock and getting knocked down. And then the big win comes from the fact that I'm being a little more aggressive to compensate for being in the red. Now, this is also the same type of trading that can get you into an even bigger loss. Because if I had lost on XSPL, I was already down 3,000 on the day. So if this had popped up and immediately dropped back down,